virtual education series sponsored by Hotchkiss Insurance. My name is Jessica Gehring with Hotchkiss Insurance, and I'm excited to be here with you today for our last TAB Zoom at Noon session for 2020. Our goal is to offer an opportunity for you to gain new strategies and stay on top of the latest within our industry as you continue to adapt to new circumstances. Hotchkiss Insurance can assist you with your insurance needs, including general liability, builder's risk, workers' compensation, employee benefits, and bonds. Our top priority at Hotchkiss is to do what's best for the builder. So please give us a call if you would like to have us look at your insurance, and we would be happy to get a quote for you. In today's session, we will hear from a panel about managing customer expectations. With first-time remodeling or new home building clients generally having a significant lack of knowledge about the process of completing their project, today we are going to hear from experts on how to manage expectations that may come from watching a TV show or listening to a friend's account of their experience. Our panel will share how they educate their clients about the entire process before any work begins. This builds a trusting relationship with the homeowners so that there are no misconceptions and big surprises. Learn from these presenters on how they develop a true partnership with their clients so that everyone involved understands the other's expectations on time, cost, and how to keep the lines of communication open until the project is completed. Our panelists today include, may change this, Michael Turner with Classic Urban Homes, Stephen Casper with Casper Custom Remodeling, and Michael Turner, I'm skipping around because we were short a couple people. And it'll be moderated by Phil Crone, the Executive Director of the Dallas Builders Association. And now I will turn it over to Phil to get us started.
All right, thanks, Jessica. I appreciate that, and I appreciate the incredible partner that Hotchkiss Insurance has been for TAB and here at the local level in Dallas for many, many years. So I appreciate that introduction. And I see we've got Stephen Casper, who has joined us here, as well as Michael Turner. We're going to get a really good overview, I think, on managing customer expectations and the processes that they've established. And from this, I hope that you'll be able to, not only, as I've mentioned a few times, contribute to the chat. You will, Lucy, get a copy of the presentation today, because these are really good tried and true processes that I think are applicable to any side of the industry, and even on the sales and supplier side when you're trying to work with people. And this is a people-oriented business. Certainly that comes with challenges and opportunities, and if you do it right, you absolutely have a leg up and you're able to get ahead. So this is as much as a probably sociology experiment as it is a industry overview. But without further ado, I'll kind of lean into the questions here, and we'll just start talking a little bit about the basics of building a trusting relationship, as the class description describes. No misconceptions, no big surprises. Lay it out, be clear and concise on what you're looking for here, and form a true partnership with your clients throughout the whole process. And hopefully that leads to referrals and more business. That is deliciously old-fashioned, but that's the way it works in this industry. And as far as I'm concerned, that's a good thing. So again, let's get started with the questions here. Michael, I'll start with you, but then transition over to Stephen, and we can kind of work through this and field questions along the way from the audience in the chat and the Q&A. But I think, you know, what I've learned from you guys and our members up here in Dallas and across the state is that rule number one in building and remodeling is don't build for crazy people. You can save yourself a lot of problems. You can save yourself a lot of challenges when you don't do that. And it's kind of a two-part question here. How do you, as best you can ahead of time in this dating period, figure out if you're dealing with the person that's going to be the right client for you? And then as you get things going, how do you set expectations on what they're going to look for as you go through one of the more expensive and significant processes that any family or individual works with.
All right, so I'll start out here. And I would say, Phil, that all customers are crazy. You just get, I guess, on the lightly crazy scale or the bat guano scale. So you're trying to find somewhere in between. But what you alluded to is kind of dating period. So that's the way I kind of describe it. With clients when they come in, whether it's cold call or referral to somebody, and they come to me and go, "Hey, you built a house for some friends of ours, and we think we want to go through this process. And how do we handle it?" And I explained to them that the initial phase is the dating phase. We're trying to figure out if we're a good fit for each other. If I can meet your expectations, if you have realistic expectations, is it a realistic budget? So you're trying to get, and the way we typically do that is, we do a retainer agreement on the front end. And we'll put them together like a preliminary budget, walk them through the design process. Obviously this takes several months. There's several meetings that are involved. So you get to know the client a little bit and kind of, what you think they're going to be like. I would say if they're difficult in the design process, you definitely do not want to build for them. And luckily in a good market when we can kind of pick and choose, I've had instances where I get done and I've got the budget done, we've got the plans done, and I'm giving them a full line on budget, full set of specs. And I say, "Hey, here this is, but I don't think we can meet your expectations. Here's your plans, here's your specs, and good luck on the build." And I got paid for my time and just kind of, kind of soft, in a soft way, let them know that I don't think we were a good fit for them. It's better to do that than to let your ego get in the way and think that you can overcome difficult clients, because they just get more difficult when money starts exchanging hands and things start going vertical.
Yeah, that's a good point that you closed with there. I hear time and time again, and perhaps some of you in the audience can identify with that, where I knew the signs, I knew I shouldn't have done it, and I just doubled down and forged ahead anyway. And those are expensive lessons to learn, and ones that hopefully you don't have to learn more than once. So that's a good point. Stephen, what are your thoughts on the remodeling side, both in terms of vetting clients up front, making sure that they're a good match for you, and then setting the expectations as they go through the journey?
Well, I agree with Michael. We started signing up design agreements 2 or 3 years ago now. And part of that impetus was to stop the tire kickers. We go through an extremely methodical process to price a project. And we do fixed price work, so we need to be very sure. So the design agreement is that first hurdle for them and us. If you say, "Gee, I don't want to pay that, I'd like to know the number before that," I just explained to them our process is based upon a good design first. Anybody in our world, anybody who's willing to guess at numbers for you are dreaming. They're picking them out of the air. 1 in a million may be accurate, but if you want accuracy, you want to do this right, you need to go through the process. So we, in our first meeting, have that conversation, say we're going to send you a design agreement. And then on the other side of the document you pulled up, you've got I don't know if you can page down. This is a document we send to people the day they call us. We say, "All right, we're setting our first meeting to come see you. This is the process we use from number 1, the initial consulting, to number 8, the pricing presentation. And these are the steps that we're going to go through to get you a price." So the crazies are going to bail out on you pretty quickly. They're not going to do the design agreement. They're going to look at this and go, "Can't you just get me a number now so I know whether I want to do the project or not?" We really can't. I'm not going to guess at something that's so financially important to you and your family. I'm just not going to guess at that. Well, Joe says he can do it for $100,000. If Joe can tell you that for certainty, then he should also be willing to do it at a fixed price and include all the things that you expect if you know what those are. So you have to build, I mean, the crazies will bail because I don't know that I call them as much crazy. There's certainly an awful lot of them they're scared, if nothing else. In our world, they're definitely scared because they're thinking about changing their home and inviting strangers in. But they certainly are, if not crazy, they're very anxious. And if you can work through that, you're a long way down the path of having a good relationship. And then once you're in, once you've started that process, I don't know that I've ever been smart enough to go, here's your plans back, we're done. They're usually telling me that in advance. So maybe I'm the crazy. I'm not sure which side that ball falls on. But once you're in, I think doing what you say you're going to do helps mitigate craziness. Not always. We've certainly all had clients that you go, I'm really glad to be done with it. But if you will listen and not try to argue, you can usually get past some of that too.
Well, I've been told sometimes it takes crazy to know crazy. But, I'm trying to, and I'm doing this somewhat off the cuff. I want to work in some of John Todd's contributions to this because also very respected remodeler. And Lucy, I see your questions. I'm going to weave those into this discussion as well. But, you know, John talks a lot about, and he has a great illustration that you see there, the consultation phase and discussing the scope and the goals. Basically the same thing by and large that you're going through, just illustrated differently. But kind of building off of this, what kind of preparedness are you looking for in a customer? Is it the one that's just laser focused and they know exactly what they want? It's almost a paint by numbers deal. Or is it a little bit more leeway in terms of concept, what materials are used, or does it really matter one way or another? And do you have any comments on John's approach to the consultation phase as it may contrast from yours?
John, I'll jump first, Michael, and then hand off to you. John Todd's process looks very familiar to me. We go through much of the same steps when we get to the pricing stage. Most remodeling clients kind of start with, I want to redo my kitchen. Okay, what would you like to do? Well, I'm not really certain. So you really almost have to define the parameters. And we talk a lot about that, defining the parameters they want in that remodeling project, so we can be good remodeling partners and guide them to a budget that they would like to achieve that does the things within those parameters. So very few of them, there are a few that are laser focused, but they're laser focused in a world of unknowns. You know, they've never done it before, or even if they have, it's still different.
So what does and this is one of Lucy's questions, what is in terms of price, and you do fixed price, what does your proposal show regarding the price? How detailed do you get as far as the line items associated there?
We don't show any line items except for allowances. So let's say we've done $1 million and $2 million projects the same way. So we get to the end and we say, your project is $375,000. And within that number are $50,000 worth of allowances. And here's what they are. Boom, 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 boom. The appliances and plumbing, et cetera. But we don't break out framing. We don't break out electric. And we tell people that right up front in our first meetings. And if that's not something they want to do, then that's a good time to excuse us from the game. And we've done $15 or $20 million worth of remodels with that model of no detail.
Yeah. And that
what matters is your spec, your specifications, and your design. That's what we say to them. If we have this right, our number is guaranteed to be right. And talking about the framing number is senseless.
That kind of speaks to my first comment too, that they're hiring you, they're hiring Michael, John, anybody out there to be the professional and to get them through the journey at the price that they want and that they can afford. And the rest is relying on the relationship you have with the trades, the experience that you have, and that's what separates you from the rest. Michael, kind of working back to you, do you work off a fixed price as well. And what do you illustrate in terms of what the price is and what goes into it? I know you have a really detailed budget sheet that you keep internally, but what do you actually show to the clients or the prospective clients?
Yeah, so we kind of do both models. We do fixed cost. I prefer fixed cost because usually I can make better margins on those. But I'll do some cost plus jobs too. If they start pushing north of $2 million and, you've got a 30-page, set of architect plans with just tons of detail, the odds are good that you're going to miss something on some page that there was a reference to that, those are the kind of jobs, or if you've got clients that are not real sure on what they're wanting, then I'll do cost plus, but usually I want it to be kind of north of, the 2 million mark. And then, you can get a decent percentage on that. And, I'd say those out there that are doing that, I've noticed that when you do that, make sure you're putting a line item on there for, for supervision, for site supervision, and make sure you're including insurance costs, in there as well. When I'm doing the fixed cost stuff, I do show clients a line item, fixed cost budget. It seems like things are starting to kind of move more that way in the new construction. I hate to say it, but when times are really good, new construction, builders are almost a commodity item out there. There's so many new names and new guys out there, and it seems kind of the younger builders are moving more towards that. They want to see everything. They want to see everything, line itemed out. And so, I'll do that model, and obviously if there's things that are going to be a little more volatile or whatever, we'll put a little bit of fluff in there to kind of cover that. I've also found that if you put a contingency number in there that would, help to cover a gray area, then that helps out well too. I'm always trying to tell them is that, we're trying to eliminate as much gray area as we can. The more specs and in details we can put together, the better off we are. I do kind of a hybrid system of what, Steve's talking about. So I do have allowance items. So anything that they're going to go down and select, out of a showroom, plumbing, lighting, hardware, tiles, flooring, those are allowance items. And I tell them, on the front end, I'm giving you a line item estimate, but once we begin construction, I close books on all the fixed items, your allowance items. You see what those estimates are from the flooring companies. You're getting my builder discount, but I'm not going to show you, lumber invoices. I'm not going to show you drywall invoices. I tell them that I'll ride the wave on that. I take the uncertainty out of that. So, you can worry about picking out the pretty stuff and not worried about looking at the commodity markets and seeing what OSB is going for a sheet this morning.
That's a good transition to my next question for you, because speaking of riding the wave, we've rode some pretty significant ones this year. And unfortunately, I think will for the months to come on commodities, in particular lumber, but just other things, door locks, interior doors. It seems like it's whack-a-mole every week in terms of what is struggling in the supply chain. So in this uncertain world that we have, especially with lumber, and you're dealing with the fixed price contract, I know we have in the tab contracts the ability to change things if we need to, but how do you handle that when you're looking, several weeks ahead at buying a significant lumber package in a market that's really volatile, or any other materials that have been difficult to come by here in the last few months? How you approach that in especially the context of a fixed price contract, Michael?
Yeah, so that's a tricky one right now because obviously, yes, there's verbiage in the contract that if it goes up more than 10% or whatever, that you can go back to that client and ask for more money. But it's really that's a bad way to get started on the project, because you get the foundation poured, you're ready to order your lumber, and you find out that it's 30% more. We've had 40% more on 50% more on some items. And you hate to go back on the very beginning and go, hey, I'm going to have to exercise this clause in the contract that I need more money for this, because then you kind of they're like, oh crap, what else did he miss? What other number is going to come back to get us? So, what I'm trying to do now is, I let them know it's like, hey, it's a super volatile market right now. So we can get you pricing. They'll only hold it, like right now, you don't get lumber held for like, about 2 weeks, 14 days is about most anybody will hold it. And I just tell them that, we may have to dip into some of that contingency number if it gets hit. And, so try to like sign the contract as late in the game as you can, and just let them know that I'll get you the number on lumber as close as I can as we get there. So the main thing I think is just communicating with them, being very clear with them, what's going on. Once you tell them that, hell, they'll get out there on the internet and do enough searching to realize that you are, you're not just blowing smoke up them. It is true that it's very volatile. And that tends to, work very well. I mean, that's like, I've got a job going right now that's, a cost plus job, and we got hit with some of that. It was one of those things that, just told the client on the front end what was coming and what to expect. And, with it being cost plus, it didn't create any, uncomfortable conversations. It was, they knew what to expect.
Yeah, that's, again, I think a point we'll hit over and over again, clearly and concisely conveying expectations. Stephen, from your standpoint, with the COVID-related volatility in the lumber market, materials, how are you handling that in the fixed price world that you work in, and just trying to make sure that your clients are able to get the selections, or at least close to the selections that they intended, with all the volatility out there?
It's two things. Given that we do fixed price work, we do not have an escalation clause in our contract. So if lumber goes up 50%, I eat it and off we go. We take a very long view of the business that we're in. I also tend to believe, though, and I may be wrong, that remodeling offers maybe a greater markup or margin opportunity at times. So we have a miscellaneous built into our budget, knowing that we're never 100% accurate. On allowance items, we ask the vendors, and there's appliances, there's all kinds of elements that are now 6 months out, or who knows when it's going to come. And all we could do is share with them, it's not available. Would you like to reselect? But we don't have anything that says we're going to come back and charge you more because costs went up to us. We do have, since it's an allowance, if that costs go up, they're going to pay what it is, but we transfer, like Michael does, we transfer appliances at our cost. So if the refrigerator was 10,000 a day and it's 12,000 tomorrow, that's what I'm going to transfer to them. If lumber was 10,000 a day and 15,000 tomorrow, that's mine.
That makes sense. Got a question here from Jared, and he said that he's run into a few competitors, residential remodelers lately, who propose using a quote unquote labor only delivery method where the owner buys all the material, thus cutting the builder's fee out of owner bought materials. He's interested in your insight perhaps on that manner of doing business.
Well, you got to ask yourself, what's the benefit? I find that those who are talking about labor only are probably doing it more because they don't have the wherewithal to financially buy materials anyway. So they can blame it on COVID, they can blame it on increasing prices, but they just don't have the pocketbook it needs. And you better watch that very carefully. There's not a benefit. Think about this. I'm now putting my schedule in the hands of the homeowner who's supposed to buy lumber in the time that I need it. I don't think I want to do that. And then when it doesn't come in, he's going to come to me and go, well, you should have known all those things. We'd rather have total responsibility for a job. And I think that's a selling point for a remodeler. I am your go-to guy. I am the professional that you hoped to find, and we handle all of the various elements of this package, period.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think the key word there is professional. You're taking responsibility for it. You've got control over this. And, ultimately it's something that they don't have to worry about procuring in a time where many of these things are exceptionally difficult to procure. So that makes total sense.
I'll add to that right there, Jared. That sounds like Home Flipper 101 that spent too much time on HGTV. That is not the client you want, and to run away in the opposite direction as fast as you can.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, that contractor probably went to how to flip homes at a local hotel lobby near them recently. So we get that. The other thing that I wanted to talk about is that changes do come up. How do you, Michael, we'll start with you, handle the change order process? And are there any changes to that have occurred in the last few months with the COVID things that we've had to deal with?
Yeah, I mean, change orders are part of building a custom home, and that's part of why we put a contingency number, in there for that. Like I said, we try to eliminate as much gray area as we can on the front end. But I know that once we go vertical, you get the house framed up, the homeowner walks there and goes, "Oh, I didn't realize that it was going to look like this. Window was going to be there, and can we change this or move this or whatever?" So, you just got to know that stuff's gonna happen. And and instead of getting at one point in time, it used to kind of frustrate me when we were changing and deviating and whatever, because I like to be real structured and whatever. But if you kind of look at it from the standpoint of, hey, it's their house, it's their house, it's their money, and if they want to move it, change it, or whatever, unless it's just something that's going to be really aesthetically terrible, or if you think it's something that's going to hurt them for resale value, then I speak up and go, I don't recommend we do this. But at the end of the day, it's their house, it's their money, and you can use that as an opportunity to make some nice margins on some of those changes as well. But as far as how we actually process them, we use, I think the two big players in the market right now for construction scheduling software, at least for the custom guys, remodelers, your co-construct and builder trend. We use builder trend, so we send them a change order, they click accept, and we pull that money. We run on those allowances, we run like an allowance spreadsheet, and what I'll do is I'll plug in the change order, it pulls from the total that they've got left. We share that in a Dropbox link, so they've got a live living total of where they're at on their budget numbers, and that way we're basically collecting that money as we go along. I would say for you guys that are new to the business or getting started, don't wait until the end of the job to collect money for change orders. Collect them as you go along, and we do that when we get bank draws. We're drawing out of the contingency number, and it's documented. We've got a list of all their change orders. They've accepted them, when they accepted them, so it makes it very clear, and it's real money when it's being when they're having to pay for it as they go.
Right.
Yeah, absolutely. Stephen, it looks like you're agreeing with an awful lot of what Michael said. Do you have anything that you want to add in terms of your approach to change orders?
Well, we're very similar. We tell everyone it's a fixed price contract. The only thing that's going to change this for you is a change in the scope of work. So if you tell me you want that window in a different place, that's a change in scope. We also use Builder Trend and love the program. Put it online, they accept it. We won't do a change order till it's been paid for. If you don't do those things, Michael may have heard these words in his life. Oh, if I'd known it was going to cost that much, I would never have done it. So you've already done the work. I learned
there are a lot of things in life that I ask that same question for.
So Builder Trend has a very well-controlled change order process, but you can too, whether you have it or not. You write the change order, you describe very, very definitively what the work is you're going to do, and then have them sign it and have them pay for it before you do anything else with the work. And the TAB contract actually says we don't have to stop anything waiting on an approval of a change order. So you really want to know that you want to do it or not.
Yeah, and that's a good point on the TAB contracts is, it's great to have them, but know them, understand them, and then actually do what they say you're going to do is very helpful as well. The other, and Sloan, if you can pull up John Todd's process again, because I want to work John into this presentation to the greatest extent that we can here. John's got, because you guys had mentioned project management system and how the clients can kind of keep track of things along the way. John's got a thing in the construction and scheduling portion of this about activate the client's cloud-based project management system, weekly communication, and online access to the project calendar, daily log, and project photos. So I illustrate John's approach to this and the point of emphasis that he puts on scheduling and involving the client, and again, the expectations on what comes next. So I use that, Stephen, with you first, and then you, Michael, on, do you guys use a similar approach on this, or do you differ a little bit from what John does?
I think we're very similar in that when we price a project, we actually provide the client with a vetting section so they can vet us again. We provide them with a specifications and design section, which we go over again. We build a Gantt chart, and then we do the contract. Now, when we've converted them to a customer, we convert that Gantt chart to a calendar on Builder Trend, and it's live. We record daily job logs that they have access to. We record pictures as we go that they have access to. We put to-dos into the system that'll show up on the calendar as we go, because, gee, I want you to please move that plug over 3 feet, or something like that. So yeah, I think communication solves all kinds of problems. You can avoids problems anyway. So the more you can communicate with your client, the better. And we meet with them, most clients of a sizable project, we sit down around the table. Even though you've done all these things, we sit at the table, myself, the construction manager, the designer, and the clients, and we just go through, okay, here's where we're at in the project. Here's questions you've asked us. Here's what we expect to be upcoming, even though it's all there. And it's amazing. I've been meaning to ask you for 3 months now about the basement or whatever, So communication and in-person absolutely helps periodically.
That's great. Michael, how do you involve with some of these project management systems, which probably in their own right are another presentation in and of themselves? But how do you involve the clients in the build process in terms of what to expect and how they can keep track of the schedule?
Yeah, so we do use Builder Trend. I have used Code Construct in the past, and I'm not going to tell you one's better than the other. It's kind of Ford versus Chevy. It's just whichever one you like and feel more comfortable with. So we do the same thing. Is because as soon as they sign a contract with you, the first question they ask you is, when is my house going to be done? So, we put together a construction schedule, and, obviously we're trying to be fairly liberal with that, because we know that there's going to be rain events, there's going to be material shortages, there's going to be back orders. So, try to plug in as much time as I possibly can. And then, one trick I'll share with you guys that has been very useful is when we do our Builder Trend schedule, we're scheduling Monday through Friday. We don't schedule Saturday as a work day, but it becomes a bonus work day because most of your trades will work. So if it's an 8-month project, you pick up an extra 30 days of work time with those Saturdays, on that. So that gives you a little bit of extra buffer. But the thing is when you put yourself out there like that and you're very transparent, you need to make sure that you know what you're doing and you've got a good competent schedule. You keep it updated. We update ours every weekly. On Mondays, we have production meetings. We'll go over where we're at. Are we on schedule? Do we need to move anything? And then also I have found that the other thing that helps keep you on schedule is if you can have your homeowners pick out all their selections before they start. Because if they do that, it makes your job so much easier, because you know how to frame in the shower for this niche, because you know what size of tiles going in there. You know where the shower valve's going and where the niche is going, so that you can, make sure the plumbing is not running through the middle of where the niche is supposed to go. So the more detail you have on the front end, the more selections you have, where you're going before you get there, as opposed to getting in the car and going, hey, we're going to California. I'm not sure how we're going to get there yet, but we'll end up there. So If you've got a detailed roadmap, it definitely helps. And then, you know, what I try to tell people is when you do that, when you make those selections, put them to bed, don't second guess yourself, move on to something else. And, you know, when we do have clients that, whether it's work, travel, whatever, they can't make those selections, we do put like milestones and deadlines in our construction schedule. And we do that typically in, I think it's called Alarm Red on Builder Trend. If things are not made out by that date, you know, I push that forward a week or 2 weeks, and it moves the move-in date by a week or two. And you know, you get some clients, I mean, if they're really following that stuff and they see that the move-in date is moving and slipping, and they know it's because of them, that usually gets them, you know, pretty motivated to, you know, finish up any loose ends and selections that needs to be done. So I would say be transparent, but make sure you're honest with yourself on that schedule, and you can meet that time.
That's good that you can illustrate the role that they play in terms of keeping things on time and in sequence. William asks, to you, Michael, do you have an in-house designer, or do you hire an architect typically to design your custom homes?
So we, at this point in stage of my career, you know, I've been doing this for like 35 years, and Classic Urban Homes has been around for, I think, 17 years now. A lot of our stuff is referral. So I've got homeowners that will come to me because I've built for partners in their law firm or doctors or, you know, family members or whatever. So I feel like when they get the best service and probably the best price is when they come to me from the beginning, and I can walk them through, you know, budgeting and plans. We have multiple architects that we work with, and giving the budget and the price point for that client, I kind of know which architect to you know, to have them interview. I'll sit in along with the interviews, and then, you know, it depends on the complexity. A lot of times our you know, it's luxury market that we're building to. These people have built multiple houses, so they usually have a really good idea of what they want. If they want to use an interior designer, then, you know, I've got multiple interior designers that they can work with. But, you know, I usually say, hey, start with your house idea book or Pinterest or whatever you want to use, and show me what it is that you're after, and I can probably save you a bunch of time and money, and kind of get you guided down the path of making your selections and choices, and kind of bringing it together. You know, we use, and I know Steve's the same way. We even share some contractors and suppliers and subs, is that, you know, I call it my circle of trust. And I go, if you go into my flooring company and you stay there and you make all your selections, they have your budget before you get there. They're going to stay in budget. They're going to show you tiles and flooring and lighting and whatever it is that is in your allowance spreadsheet. And that will keep you in line and make you much more happy that you're not dipping into your contingency number because some designer showed you this really awesome tile from Waterworks that's, you know, $45 a square foot, and takes, you know, 6 months to get.
You guys are giving me great transitions here, because back to you, Stephen, wanting to kind of see what your design process looks like, and then how, in particular on the remodeling side, do you cope with this HGTV and let's buy everything on the internet type of world that I think creates some quite unreasonable expectations in many cases?
I think it'd go back to your very first question about how you deal with crazies. You can't compete with TV shows because they build it in 3 days and it costs nothing. So you have built this level of trust. We're a design build firm, so we tend to bring the design in, but we get that, you know, they bring architectural things to us also. But you just can't deal with the crazies who think that it ought to be done in 3 days, ought to be done for $3, and I'm going to buy it online. We won't accept that. We've found that online vendors sometimes are a bit sketchy. I've also lost control of the building process when I give the ordering to somebody else. We won't do that. And if that's something that would cross us off your list, it's better to know that right up front than halfway through. So I talked to a guy today, and he's in heavy construction, nice guy, nice wife. And he was talking about buying things. I said, no, we buy everything. If you have some available discounts to you, tell us and tell your vendor that we're going to come to them for that, but we're going to control the purchase.
Yeah. And I think that's just part of that professionalism and, staying in control to the greatest extent that you can on this process, which, the next point on this, there are things that come up and a lot of things that you can't control, city permitting and inspections. You make me bang my head on the freaking desk here. I hope things aren't as unreasonable in your neck of the woods in the state as they can be in the city of Dallas and others. But how do you, in the spirit of kind of conveying what to expect, part of conveying what to expect is to anticipate the unexpected, and it will come up. It does manifest itself in interesting ways sometimes, but just explain that conversation with your clients on the things that are outside of your control and outside of their control. How do they cope with that? How do you brace them for that?
I think an honest conversation as much up front as you can. Dallas, in January of this year, you walked into Jefferson Street, you got a permit that day or the next day, and you went to work or so. Now, our permits have been running 6 weeks at least. And I talked to a buddy of mine who does what we do, and he just got a permit that took him 11 weeks. There's no change in the process, essentially. There's not a lot of unknowns that you can warn people about the permitting process up front. When we talk about a start date, we give them a bit of a range of a start date because it can be dependent upon trade availability, our own availability, and things like that. But that's usually within a 2 or 3 week span of time. Unknowns, we just, we take a financial risk and say, we don't say anything about unknowns. There's not a hidden condition. We are so methodical in our approach to remodeling. I think that was my ego talking. That we really come up with very, very, very few hidden conditions. I swear to God. And with that, we just plow through them. There's very seldom you're going to find a hidden condition that's so bad that you would throw your hands up and run around and scream. You just fix it and move on. The pipe is in the wall in the wrong place. Yeah, that's going to cost me $3,000, $4,000, $5,000. I do fixed price work. I'm just going to get it. I've done everything I can to do my homework. If you walk in and guess at a house, those are the times you're going to get into problems with unforeseen events.
Yeah. And you get to a certain point in your career where you've pretty much seen just about everything and can account for it. And it's back to
the little one who was able to feed his plastic soldiers down the pipe we left open. Oh dear God.
Again, that could probably be a whole different presentation.
It's a new episode.
Strange stuff that you never thought you'd see in your career. A lot of that going around this year. Michael, same thing, a lot of things that as professional as you are and as prepared as you are, there's a larger industry, there's a larger market going on that has forces that are beyond what we can control. I think in a lot of ways, that's where the state and local associations can come in, because we're running stories about, hey, these are industry-wide problems. These are things that are happening. These are things that everybody's having to cope with. And it's not just Casper Remodeling or Classic Urban Homes or anybody, saying this, but how do you sort of prepare them for the unexpected and things that pop up? Because the city of Dallas has not yet run out of new fact scenarios, and local government's one aspect of it, weather's another. How do you prepare for just some of those things that we can't control?
I think the biggest thing is just communication. Communicate with your clients of what you're dealing with. I mean, yes, you don't bog them down in the minutia of somebody's truck broke down and they didn't make it today or whatever. Big items. Just let them know that some of the delays we are going to deal with during the construction process. Things that are out of our control are going to be permitting issues, especially with the city of Dallas. We're all dealing with a COVID world now, and a lot of people are working from home, getting a hold of manufacturers' reps and trying to get product information is a slower process. That's why I'd say go back to, if you can get as much stuff spec'd and picked out before you break ground, you can get that stuff ordered, because man, if you're trying to, do business as usual and wait till, a couple of weeks out before you want to order appliances or your air conditioning condensers and stuff, you're in a world of hurt. You need to be way out front of that stuff. That's why, using scheduling software, assigning all those tasks to people and getting it out there and let them know what's going on. That's gonna save you a lot of grief. But and I'd say for some of the people out there, maybe some of the newer younger builders, just kind of trying to get their start in this business. Just be honest with people. Don't tell them what they want to hear. Tell them the truth. Under promise and over deliver, and they'll be happy, in the long run. When I bring on new staff and new supervisors, I'll tell them is like, during this 10-month build process, the first 9 months can go absolutely fantastic, but all they're going to remember is that last 2 weeks before they get in. How did you handle the punch work? How did you handle, little items that they wanted done? That's what they remember. So, make sure you finish strong, communicate all the way through the process, and you're doing everything you possibly can.
Yeah, definitely. Stephen has a good comment in the chat about that, of just setting expectations up front. Here are the things that can go wrong and will on occasion do so. Make a record of the meeting of all the things that were covered. That's a good way to have that paper trail laid out. And for you, Stephen, I'm going to work back to Jared's question that he put there, and also put out a last call for any other questions for our two panelists here. But Jared, I guess just to paraphrase, was wanting a little bit earlier or a little bit further explanation as to how you approach change orders. Why in particular are you collecting full payment for a change order immediately when it's issued versus collecting payment for the change order when the work is actually complete?
Because we want to. I mean, that sounds like a smart ass answer, but if you want that work done and it's not inside the original budget, maybe not even inside your financing, if you have financing, it needs to be paid for. So let's do it right now, because we may have to order something very early on that's related to a change order. And I just don't see a reason to delay the payment. If they really want to do it, they should have the funds available to do it, or they should say, no, I can't do it. You could take a partial down payment, I guess. That's not what we do. We think that it should all be paid for right up front before you do the work. And it could be 3 months in advance.
And the contracts spell that out very clearly. Yep. And
read your TAB contracts, you bet. If you're not using the TAB contract, let me give a big vote of confidence in that contract.
Yeah, that's part of explaining the expectations and following through on those contracts, which is a good idea. So you have that opportunity. They've had the arm's length ability to sign it, and off absolutely. You go. And that's that's a done deal. Michael, do you have any comments on that, just upfront versus waiting down the road on change orders and payment?
I mean, I totally agree with what Steve's saying. I mean, it's a change to the scope of work. This is not what we agreed on originally. You decided that you want to change something or add something, and you're just setting yourself up for failure and for heartache if you don't collect that money on the front end. So it's real when they have to pay you for it. So like I do with new builds, I put a contingency number in there, so I'm pulling from that. They may not be writing a check, but when I get that next draw from the bank, I'm pulling from that contingency number with details of what that change is. But if you're doing if you're doing a fixed cost remodel and you don't have the contingency number, first off, you need a contingency number. You should always have that for unknowns and what ifs. But just don't be afraid to ask for it. I mean, and if they don't want to give you the money on the front end, what makes you think they're going to give you the money on the back end?
Right. Yeah. Throw this into that mix also. A lot of clients, there are a number of clients who will do a number of change orders. And if you aren't collecting for those and you get to the end and you hand them this bill for $30,000 or $40,000 or $50,000, they may just come unglued on you. You stop that by not letting it ever get to that stage.
Yeah, that's great. And I know in the chat, Lucy had mentioned a contingency addendum that they use too. And I think that's a good best practice there. I'm putting one last call out for questions, but while we're doing that and I'm looking for what's there and we get to the end of the hour, Michael, and then you, Stephen, is there anything else that is along the lines of what we're talking about here and customer expectations that we didn't cover that you would like to convey?
No, I mean, I think hopefully we've done a good job of kind of explaining how we deal with, with clients and expectations. And I just would kind of reiterate to people is don't let your ego overload what you can, what you can do. So if somebody seems difficult on the front end, let them walk, let them go to somebody else, maybe refer them to somebody that's not a member of the association or another builder that you don't particularly care for. Send them to them.
Send them to me.
I should do that to Greco, but unfortunately he's not with us anymore. Now just I mean, I know we're all trying to, and I've been there before, and I've been the new builder, and you get pretty, you get pretty aggressive out there with pricing and trying to make a name for yourself and get a little bit of market share. But always remember too, you got to warranty these things for 10 years. Things are going to come over time. Regardless of how great of a build you are, something gets done that gets covered up that may come back to bite you, a year or two from now. Be proactive, take care of your clients, go out and fix stuff, even if it's a little bit out of warranty. A happy customer is your best salesperson. So go the extra mile, and it'll serve you well in your career in this industry.
Definitely. And Stephen, I'm gonna pull that question back and throw in a few that just came in my last call here, just to try to make sure that we address the audience's input, which is definitely more important than mine on this. Just again, the one question from Stephen is, how do you handle homeowners who balk at the price on change orders? This speaks to, sticker shock right away versus down the road. It seems that they, if they don't get what they want, the relationship goes south. That's the question that Stephen had for you there.
It's always their choice. I mean, the best tool you have, I tell my guys this, and I believe very deeply, is the ability to ask questions. So when somebody says, I'm balking at that, say, I mean, I'm sorry, but this is what the cost is. What might we do to meet your expectations at a lower cost? So you can't just sit there and argue with somebody because they don't want to pay the money. If they don't want to pay the money for that change order, I'm unable to do it for a price other than this. If you start negotiating your prices, you're never going to end negotiating your prices. Yeah,
that's true. You get in a unfortunate merry-go-round there that you can, or vortex rather, that you can
try
get out of.
Yeah, try to give them alternatives. Okay, so you wanted this new Sub-Zero. Instead, let's look at other options. What other options might we have? But I'm not going to cut the price on it because you're not happy about it. You chose what you liked, and it turned out to be more expensive than you expected.
Well, I've got two more questions left. One from James that I'm going to send to Stephen, and then one last one from Sandra that I'm going to send back to you, Michael. James asks, is there a rule of thumb for pricing the design agreement?
Well, I wish there was a magical rule. We've almost just sat down and said our design agreement's there to stop tire kickers and to stop crazies. So we pretty much do $1,500 every time. It's a really small project. It'll be less than that. And we're probably not even covering all of our costs. But by the time they've said, yes, I'm paying the design agreement, I've signed the design agreement, they're 85% of the way of being our clients anyway. So we're going to earn our money doing what we do, which is remodeling their home. So we kind of use, if it's 50,000, it's probably gonna be 1,500. If it's 100,000, if it's 300,000, it might be 1,500. Now, if there's something extremely unique, then we might vary. If it's 10,000, we may charge them 250 or 300, something like that. But we're always going to charge one, because the minute they say no to that, you've got a signal
Yeah, absolutely. Sandra asked Michael, for you, what requirements do you have any requirements for clients to finance their project? Is there a list of allowed lenders or even preferred lenders that you as a custom builder would point them at?
Yeah, and if you don't mind, I just want to kind of echo on Steve's comments on
Sure.
that. If you guys out there, whether you're remodelers or builders, and you guys are giving free estimates, quit that.
Yeah.
Your time is valuable. Your time is worth money. Okay. You're not going to go in and talk to an attorney or your accountant, and they don't work for free. They bill you by the hour for what they do. I do the same thing as Steve. We charge for estimates. I tell them right up front, we charge for estimates. Smaller job, we may charge $1,500. It's a big $2-3 million house. It's $3,000. And what I tell them, we're going to help them through the design process and give them a line item budget. And if we feel like we're a good fit for other, I'll apply that towards my build fee. If we're not, I got paid for my time. And if they're not willing to do that, you don't want them. Let them walk.
Yeah.
All right. Because I have old man syndrome and I forget what the question was you asked me.
I knew, despite how scholarly you look with those glasses, that I saw the monkey banging the cymbals doing backflips, trying to figure that out. So I actually had to go back and see, and it was essentially just asking if there are any requirements that you have or preferred or allowed lenders that you have on these.
So like I said again, at this point, we're probably 80% referral business. So when they come in, we try to be like one-stop shopping for them. I would tell them we can help them with an architect. We can help them with a realtor and find a piece of dirt if they don't have one already. We've got a list of our preferred lenders that understand construction financing that we will connect them with. And I usually give them a list of 2 or 3 so they feel like I'm not just directing them as like, here's who you use for this, here's who you use for that. Each of them have different programs. Some of them will roll some of the closing cost into your permanent financing. So yeah, I try to be one-stop shop. And obviously I've made a lot of connections through the association over the years. So I've got a list of bankers and lenders that I can send them to. I do tell them also as well, if they come to me and go, oh, we've already got a great relationship with one of the big mega banks. I go, yeah, I don't understand construction the way we do here, and we won't work with them, but I'll be happy to refer you to somebody that will. And there again, setting proper expectations, and you explain to them, it's your business, you're the professional, this is the way we operate, we've been in business long enough to know what works and doesn't work, and if you follow our system, you'll end up with a great project, you'll be really happy with it, but don't veer out of your lane.
So Stephen, lightning round here. We'll work in one question if you can answer it in 30 seconds or less, and I bet you can. Dana asked, what if the owners want to bring in their own people to do a change order at a cheaper price?
They can do that after we're out of the business. After we're done with the project, they can bring anybody in they want to, but not while we're there.
I figured that'd be a pretty straightforward and quick one there. Guys, I really appreciate your advice, your expertise, your insights here. Thank you all for the great questions and comments in the chat, and a very sincere thank you to Hotchkiss Insurance. You see Jessica's contact information up there on the screen in terms of how to get a hold of her. Sloan will be in touch with you on the recording for this and the slides. So thank her for coordinating this and putting it together. And I hope you enjoy the rest of your Tuesday. Y'all have a great day. Thank you.
It's been an honor to be invited. Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.
You bet. Have a great day.
You too. Bye.
Goodbye.